Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Eat. It is a rainy morning here today. I wish it were snow. It was a couple degrees colder. It probably would be snow. And I have a matcha with me as well as a big glass of electrolytes. We are hitting the ground running on this Monday morning. I shared on last week's episode, or maybe the week before. I think it was the week before. I have a lot, or maybe I didn't share this. Honestly, I think 2 weeks ago, I don't think I realized how much I had to do until I, after the fact, looked at my to-do list and I realized, good gracious, I have a lot of work to do. And the reason being because I'm going to see my mom on Christmas Eve through the week of Christmas, and then I'll be back home. I'll work a couple days, and then I will be off to Florida for 10 days. So I don't think I really recognized as we moved into December. I think I was so focused on my birthday and Thanksgiving. Usually there's a week between Thanksgiving and my birthday. Usually it's Thanksgiving, then we have a whole week, and then we have my birthday. But this year, because Thanksgiving was so late in November, we went right into December. And then I thought about it, I'm like, I have so much to do before I leave. I want to get so much done and get ahead. Not just, in terms of systems, planning things, scheduling things, podcast related, social media related, which your girl is a one-man show here and has been a one-man show. So there's a lot of that to do, but then also just work I have that I want to feel as though I'm, solid in, so that going away, I'm not losing out on that time, if that makes sense. So I honestly can't even say 2 weeks ago I recognized that, because that was the week before, that was a couple days before my birthday. And then it was like later on that week I realized, I'm like, oh, okay, it's December now. And we have a lot going on and a lot to do. So I am in the headspace now. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday, we are going for it. We are getting it done, because I'm then working the remainder of the weekend, which typically means, and when I say working, I'm referring to bartending. And then I have Monday of next week, the 23rd, and then the 24th is Christmas Eve, and then we're off, right? So there's just a lot going on. And it's all good things, and I am excited to check things off my to-do list. I am a chronic list maker. That is something that you might know about me, but if you don't, I am a chronic list maker. I love making lists, and even more, I love checking things off my list. And psychologically speaking, that's actually very rewarding for people. So if you need something to motivate you, make a list. And then the experience, the dopamine you get from checking something off a list, even if it's wake up or take a shower, can be very reinforcing. Very reinforcing. So just a little bit of a pro tip from a list maker, a long-term list maker. And my notes app is, I truly could not live without my notes app. My notes app helps my brain function and helps me get through the day when I have my list, my notes app, my to-do list, my grocery list, everything. Every single thing is in my notes app. So if I ever lost my notes app, I would probably lose it. So I don't really know how I got here now. I think I was just introducing today's episode, and I have a long day ahead of me. And then I kind of got into the space of, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to do. But today's topic is all about the primary investment, the most important investment that you can make moving into the new year. And I think we can all make an educated guess as to what I'm referring to, of course. But I want to take the time to really break this down. And I may be able to offer you some different perspectives on this topic. I may be able to offer you some reframes. I think that that's really important, because I think a lot of us go into the new year with the intention of weight loss, or the intention of, a physical appearance of some kind, right? Achieving a certain physique. But I really want to reframe that goal into something that I believe is more sustainable and will offer you a little bit more of flexibility when it comes to your goals so that by January 17th, and I say January 17th because that is the most well-known day that people abandon ship on their resolutions, the 17th of January. So just to avoid that from taking place so you can see sustainability in these goals through February, March, and beyond. So today's topic of conversation is going to be focusing on what I would argue as being the most important investment we can make moving into the new year, and a number of reasons why. And I'm excited. I'm very excited. Whether or not this was something that was on your list of focuses or goals for the new year, I'm hopeful I can either reinforce the goal that you already have set forth for yourself and give you some support there, or if this was not a goal that you had on your list, I can make it a goal for you. So let's dive in. Let's get into it. Welcome to the table. Let's eat. Welcome to Let's Eat. I'm your host, Emily, holistic health coach and self-proclaimed wellness enthusiast, here to meet you at the intersection of physical and mental health, the exact location where optimal wellness lies. This podcast is meant to explore all areas of mind and body wellness, designed to offer you the integrative knowledge, behavioral strategies, and mindset shifts necessary to uplevel your health and feel better today. We'll explore nutrition, sleep, movement, self-care and stress management, habits and routines, gut health, mental health, and more. I am so happy that you're here. Welcome to the table. Let's eat. So you can imagine that the universal goal that I think we should all be focused on in 2025 is, drumroll please, our health. Our health. Now, this was to be expected, right? Like I said before, you could make an educated guess as to what I would say is the most important goal for us moving into 2025. No doubt about it. However, I think with health comes a lot of complexity because everyone is so individual, and that's going to look differently on every single person. So while throughout this episode, I'll be referring to health as this general topic, I encourage you to start to think about what that means for you specifically, what that might look like for you from a physical and emotional or mental health perspective. Because at the end of the day, as mentioned, health is so individual, and the goals that you have for yourself are going to be vastly different than the goals for your colleague, for your sibling, for your, best friend. And we need to do that preparation to really take an analysis of our personal, physical, and mental health and decide what do I need to focus on? What investment can I make moving into the new year so that it works for me, so that it's relevant for me? And this can be multifaceted. This can be mostly mental health related as opposed to physical health related. Obviously, we know there's an interconnection between the two and there's significant overlap. So inevitably, there's going to be some sort of, influence of our physical health on our mental health and vice versa. But really taking time to take audit and look at your health and decide what are the most realistic next steps for me to take moving into 2025 so that I can get to the place that I want to be, whether it's healing or it's symptom relief or it's simply, I just want to get to the bottom of what in the world is going on. And unfortunately, this does take time. This isn't something that is as easy as going to the doctor and saying, oh, I have a sore throat, I have, congestion, and the doctor being able to do a quick swab and determining, okay, is it strep throat? Is it a sinus infection? What's going on? A lot of times these root causes underneath take time to identify, and sometimes it requires seeking out practitioners who can do those more functional tests that will allow them to see on a cellular level what's going on, or whether it's through a GI map looking at our gut. And so forth, right? There's complexity to everyone's health story, everyone's situation. So that is really what I hope that you take out of this episode is I will prompt questions and I will give you some food for thought around formulating those goals for yourself so that it works for you and your needs. I think we quickly resort to, I want to lose weight or I want to look a certain way come the new year. And I have no disrespect towards those goals at all. I think those are very worthy goals, but I think we become too fixated on those pieces to the puzzle and we forget our health in the meantime. And that won't allow us, number one, to sustainably lose weight and keep it off, first and foremost. And it can also lead us down a pretty harmful path because a lot of weight loss resistance or difficulty with losing weight comes with a root cause. It's not just about a caloric deficit where calories in, calories out, and that will do the trick. A lot of times there's complexity. There can be gut issues. There can be thyroid issues. There can be blood sugar issues, metabolic health issues that are keeping us from getting to that weight loss that we're hoping for. And it can oftentimes lead us feeling really discouraged, lead us into a deeper state of poorer health if we're not addressing the root cause. And ultimately, we are unable to achieve the resolutions that we want to seek out. Or I'm going to use resolutions and goals interchangeably. I don't really know. I'm not really sure that they are considered synonymous. But for the sake of this episode, we're gonna talk about the goals for the new year, but you might hear me say resolutions and just allow those to be the same word for a sec. I might go ahead and actually Google resolution versus goal and what the difference is there. I'm pretty sure they're not the same. So bear with me here. But that's really the intent of this episode, of us really just exploring this on a more granular level, taking, this chunk of time, whether you are driving or on a walk or cooking dinner, whatever the case is, to start to let these concepts marinate. We have 2 weeks left until New Year's Eve, until New Year's Day. And so this gives you a real good chunk of time to start reflecting on this concept so that starting January 1st, if you decide to hit the ground running on January 1st, you know me, I would say let's start today. But if you decide January 1st is the day for you to get going, you're in the right headspace in order to do that. So one suggestion that I could make for you as you start to create this plan or start to visualize what it would mean for you to be in better health, right? That's a very vague blanket statement, but that's going to mean something different to you than it does to me, than it does to the next person. So keep that in mind. Is to really connect with your why. Now, this might sound very cliche, but the more that we can really create specific and concrete lists or explanations or motivators as to why we want to invest in our health, the more of a reason it gives us incentive to do it. And this, once again, is going to be very individual. But if you're able to really actively connect with, why am I doing this? What are the driving forces behind my desire to make these change, to invest in this area of my health? The more easily it will be for you to find motivation on the days where it feels futile, right? Where you are feeling less than motivated, or you're feeling discouraged, or you're feeling disheartened. If you can revisit that why, whether it's a list or it's a paragraph or it's, the visualization of what that ideal self will look like, that will give you the fuel and reignite the desire to get going, to do it. I think that's the issue, is we feel so incredibly motivated on January 1st. And that's where we see those, first 2 weeks of I'm going, I'm doing it, I feel good, this is it, this is my year. And then as that motivation, that New Year's resolution motivation tapers off, we have a harder time reinvesting. We have a harder time committing. And the biggest myth that I think we buy into is this idea that motivation is, perpetual, and that we'll always have motivation and that we'll always feel inspired. And the hard truth is that that's just not the case. That's just not the case. We're not going to always feel motivated. And sometimes we have to create that motivation for ourselves. And using our list or our paragraph or our journaling to revisit our why in those moments where we are feeling motivated, that can reignite that for us. That can really allow us to reconnect with the reasons why we're investing. And this can be really, really personal. This can be about, the grandparent that you want to be, or the parent you want to be, or, the spouse that you want to be, or, maybe growing up you dealt with, a lot of weight troubles and you were feeling really insecure in your skin. And so you're doing this for the person or the adolescent that you were at 10, at 15, at, as a young adult, whatever that might look like. This is ultra, ultra personal, and it can be very, very motivating for us to reconnect with that, even if it takes a daily reflection of, okay, what are the steps I'm taking today to invest in my health, and why am I doing it? And it can be something as simple as, I just want to feel better. I think that should be on everyone's list. Why are you doing this? So I can feel better. Who doesn't want to feel better? There's no one out there that's like, yes, I want to feel not well. I want to feel sick. I want to feel symptomatic. There's no one who feels that way. There's no one who feels that way. So if you simply have that at the top of your list, I just want to feel better, how motivating is that? To know, well, if I take these steps today, that is one step closer to feeling better. And not even that. If I exercise today, that will help me feel better. The investments that we make from day to day, while we might be looking more at like a long-term focus, like, oh, okay, I'm on a gut healing journey. So I'm taking these supplements, I'm eating these foods, I'm avoiding, the sugar, the this, the that. All of that is in preparation for feeling better down the line. Either it's like an elimination diet that you're doing and you're avoiding a certain food for X amount of time to see what happens when your body responds to it later on. Or, a lot of it is more long-term thinking. But what we also know to be true, and what I reinforce day in and day out, is there's so many things that we can be doing on a day-to-day basis that will help us feel better in the short term. So even if you're looking at your why and you're saying, okay, I'm exercising today because I want to feel good down the road, or that's what I want to feel better. Not always, all right? I don't want to say that this is a blanket all the time, everyone's going to feel good, but in most cases, after exercise in the immediate term, you will feel better. Whether it's a sense of accomplishment, which feels good, that's psychologically reinforcing, or just going for a walk and getting fresh air and the clarity and the sense of calm or the focus or just the endorphins that are there help you feel good in the immediate term. Now, exercise doesn't always feel good to everyone, and I'm not going to sit here and say that it does. It doesn't feel good sometimes for me. When you really challenge yourself, it can feel really hard. But the feeling you have afterwards is oftentimes really reinforcing. It feels good. And so this is only about, looking at your why for 3 months down the road. It's also your why for the right now. Like, what do I want to feel like today? How is my energy going to be better if I exercise for the remainder of the day? Not if I exercise throughout the course of the day, meaning what is my energy going to look like if I decide 45 minutes this morning I'm going to, ride my Peloton, or I'm going to go to that class that I booked, or whatever the case is. I know for me, the energy piece is huge. I always say this, I always exercise before I go to bartend because I'm on my feet, and you think, oh, that's kind of silly, right? You're moving around, you're running around, you're active at the restaurant. Why would you want to exercise before? I'm telling you, the night and day difference I have when I exercise before I go versus not exercising is huge. I feel so much more sluggish when I'm behind the bar, when I don't exercise versus when I do. I'm a completely different person. I'm a completely different worker. I'm faster, I'm sharper. So that's always something that I try to prioritize because I know how important it is. So reconnect with your why. Make a list of the reasons why. Put it on Post-it notes. Put it on your mirror. Put it on your fridge. Keep it in your notes app. Set alarms on your phone where, throughout the day, different components of your why show up as an alarm, just to remind you as to why you're doing this. It's such a simple task, but it can be really motivating when you remind yourself in the midst of feeling discouraged or unmotivated, the reasons why you want to invest. Next, this is kind of, I guess, common sense, but I want to break it down a little bit. What I find to be so true is we have existed and we've allowed ourselves to perpetuate this subpar existence. We've just allowed ourselves to exist within a space of feeling low mood, low energy, kind of feeling at 50%. And we've kind of just chalked it up as this is normal. I think for some people it's either, this is just a part of getting older. For some people it's just been our norm for so long that we've kind of surrendered to it and we've just accepted that this is just how it will be. This is just how I have to exist, and I just have to deal with the symptoms. I just have to deal with feeling this way. And I want to really emphasize how much of an influence and how much of an impact this has on everything else in our lives. If you think about it, if we're living with chronic chronic digestive issues, or this chronic fatigue, or we're dealing with, mood imbalances, or, we're feeling ravenous all the time, or we have constant headaches, we have, all of these symptoms that we've just collectively decided is a part of the human existence. Now, I'm not saying that we should be symptom-free 100% of the time and there should be no issues. When it comes to sleeping poorly the night before, or eating something your body doesn't agree with, right? There can be a lot of that takes place, and that's okay. But when we're dealing with them with such frequency, it really diminishes our quality of life. I don't think anyone can argue that. And when we think about our quality of life being at 50%, that's going to then impact our relationships, our performance at work, our outlook. I mean, the mind-body connection is so real. If you're feeling miserable physically, where your blood sugar is all over the place, your physiology is so disrupted, your circadian rhythm is off, that's going to change the way you see your day-to-day. No one's like, oh, I feel terrible physically, so life is great, right? Like, that's going to impact how you feel from an emotional and mental perspective when physically you don't feel well, and then vice versa. If mentally you're unwell, that's going to impact your body. We know the mind-body connection is real. So I always use this example when I talk to clients about the importance of investing in our health, because everything else suffers when our health is not where it needs to be. Everything else is impacted. And I share this with clients when their priorities are a little out of line, and it's more just to kind of realign them. It's not about, telling them what they should prioritize. It's really just giving them a different perspective on things, because obviously I'm not in a position to tell someone what to prioritize and what to value. That's completely up to them, as I wouldn't want anyone to tell me what I should prioritize. But at the very least, this gives them a little bit more perspective to be able to look at their health as being that priority, because I think a lot of times our health is put on the back burner, especially when it comes to this time of year, first and foremost, but also when it comes to work responsibilities or, family responsibilities or whatever the case is. But when you really start to think about, well, what is my life without having good health, or what is, what is my work, and what type of employee or business owner or staff member or whatever the case is can I be if I'm not feeling well? I'm not going to perform my best. If I'm only at 50%, then my work will only be at 50%, right? That just makes sense. If me, myself, my person, my body, my human, right, who I am is only at 50%, whether it's in an emotional or physical capacity, then nothing else can be beyond that. I can't give 100% to everything if I myself am not 100%. So it's just a different way of looking at health, that it becomes more essential. It becomes more of a non-negotiable. It becomes more of this is not something that I have the option around, where I, have that flexibility to put that on the back burner or let it fall to the wayside because it touches every single thing in life. And I also want to disclaim this and say this is not me saying that you have to go out now and buy all these supplements and invest in all these tests and do all these really expensive things, because I too know that that is not feasible. But if you can turn to the basics and you can lean into the basics, the pillars of health, just by looking at what you're eating, how much you're moving, what your sleep quality looks like, that can be exponentially influential on how we feel and can completely change your life. Completely change your life. So this perspective shift, I think, is so important. It can sometimes be some tough love for individuals. And a lot of times what I've seen is there is a deeper issue. It's our body's way of protecting us to some extent, because there can be worthiness issues there. There can be fear embedded in making a change. There's comfort zones that are vying with us to be maintained. And it can be really hard for us to break out of that. And so we'll use our work and our relationships and, fill in the blank as reasons as to why we can't invest. I see this all the time, and usually it manifests with clients who are either canceling appointments or aren't committing to the homework or aren't making the changes. I see this a lot. Sometimes they're just not ready to make the change, and that's okay. I cannot force someone to make a change. I've seen this as a therapist. This was really, really big. Avoidance was huge. Clients who would make a breakthrough in one session and then would cancel for 3 or 4 sessions to follow. And it was just because it was a shift. It was a change. It was uncomfortable to be able to step out of what's familiar. A lot of it can be past history. A lot of it can be upbringing. I mean, there's a lot of factors there. But the more that we can look at our health as being a non-negotiable, as being a part of, the responsibility we have to be a good partner, to be a good mother, to be a good employee, to be a good friend, this can completely shift the way we see our day, the way we see our goals for the new year, and really heighten the importance for us to invest in our health. Now, let's talk about this focus on weight loss for the new year. Weight loss is such a cumbersome topic. I find this is such a focus for women, and especially women who are moving into their late 30s, 40s, post-pregnancy, even menopausal women, postmenopausal women. And I think this is the ultimate challenge. And I see this as a coach. I see this in my personal life. I see this on social media, in women's groups I'm a part of. I see this all over. I see a lot of individuals who have distrust in the process of weight loss. I remember as a therapist and even now as a coach, there's a lot of skepticism of, it's not possible, it's too hard, it's a genetic wiring. And I get it all. And my biggest mission is to clarify this argument as best I can and continue to learn more about what is effective and what the research says, and, finding support for clients on an individual level with their specific needs. And I'm really excited moving into the new year as I continue to become certified in functional testing that this will be an area I'll be able to uncover better for clients, because this concept of weight loss resistance can be due to so many things, and we're not educated enough. Just this past few weeks, I've been doing free nutrition audits for my online Facebook group, and clients will put, or not clients, they're not clients of mine, but individuals who submit their logs will, write in the additional comments section, I've been trying to lose weight, I try to exercise, I think I'm doing all the right things, but it just won't come off. And I think if we were to open our eyes a little bit more to the fact that there are a number of factors that can inhibit our ability to lose weight, thyroid issues being a primary driver of this, gut issues, hormonal imbalances, metabolic dysfunction, the list goes on, the more we'll be able to widen our view and look a little bit deeper into these areas so that we can be successful. Because right now we're just doing these extreme diets and caloric restriction and intensive workouts, and it's not helping us, it's not effective, and it's not achieving the results that we're looking for. So I want to spend just a few minutes talking about weight loss as a goal for the new year and really encouraging you to start shifting that focus to more of a health-centered focus, because I think if we spend too much time focused on the weight loss piece and we become consumed by that, it really narrows our approach and will likely not result in the outcome that we're hoping for, whether it's about a sustainability piece where we lose the weight and then we have a hard time keeping it off, or another issue is we work hard to lose the weight and nothing happens and we become discouraged, we resort to really extreme measures, and then we just abandon ship because it's just not possible, when in reality, oh boy, it's a Monday, when in reality, the underlying force is something that needs to be uncovered and addressed at the root level. It's not something that can be, obvious to us on the surface necessarily, unless it's accompanied with other symptoms. But I think these other symptoms have just been dismissed because they're more subclinical. And so they're not looked at from our healthcare as being problematic or being diagnostic or meeting criteria per se. And so we're walking around with weight loss resistance being a symptom of an underlying issue, along with these other subclinical symptoms that are just being dismissed, and we think that we're just incapable of losing weight, when in reality it's something underneath. So the point of this tangent is to encourage you that if weight loss is a goal for the new year, I support you, I empower you, and I think that's wonderful. And I think, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can start to reframe that goal by looking at it as more of just, I'm going to invest in my health in these ways, as opposed to I'm just focused on my weight loss, I believe that this is the most sustainable way to go about weight loss, as being a byproduct of achieving those health-focused goals. That is always my philosophy as a coach. Now, this doesn't jive well with a lot of people who come to me and weight loss is their primary goal. I always am very upfront about the fact that there can be other issues going on underneath the surface that can inhibit your ability to lose weight. And that can definitely be a roadblock, because if we're focused just on losing weight, number one, we can resort to measures that can be really impactful and negatively influential on our health. But it can also keep us from focusing on what's most important and what's most sustainable, which is our health. And so I'm very upfront that it's not going to be a counting calories type of program. We're going to focus on your health, and that will come alongside it, right? Weight loss will come organically once you start reducing inflammation and moving your body more and doing more of those, kind of foundational steps to better health. Weight loss is in fact a byproduct of that. So if you can look at the goal that you have for yourself for weight loss and start to expand to, instead of focusing on weight loss specifically, how can I just focus on investing in my health? This will not only allow you to feel better and hopefully get to the root cause of whatever, potential issues might be there, whether weight loss resistance is a symptom or not. We can get to the root cause of a lot of issues that are causing lots of symptoms. But also weight loss will organically come along with that, and at the rate that your body is comfortable. I think we're expecting this 20 pounds off in a week type of experience, and I can assure you that this is not something that we want. It's healthy to have a gradual progression in weight loss. It's healthy to go about it in a way that is comfortable, that is sustainable for the body, and not something that's this quick fix, losing it within a matter of a couple weeks, and then, expecting us to continue at that pace. I just don't think it's necessarily healthy to go about it in that way. So if you are someone who is looking to lose weight come the new year, like I said, I support you first and foremost. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful step to take from a health perspective. However, I would encourage you to start to reframe those goals to seeing it as more as what am I doing on a daily basis to invest in my health, because the weight loss will come with that, but you'll also see much greater sustainability in physical and mental wellness when you start to establish habits and routines that are health centered versus I'm going to do everything in my power over the next 6 weeks to lose any weight. So I hope this makes sense. I hope that this is clear. And just as a disclaimer, which I will continue to embed throughout this episode, is I am here to support you if that is something that you need assistance with, whether it's just a couple sessions for us to clarify these goals for you. You can also schedule a Fast Fuel 90-minute intensive call, which is meant to, really refuel and take a look at your specific habits and routines from a lifestyle perspective and make adjustments and, reorient them in a way that's more in alignment with physical and mental wellness. Those options are always available, whether it's now in December moving into January, or say come the end of January, you're feeling like you've kind of lost touch or you've lost your footing around your goals. Those types of calls can be really effective to help realign you and reestablish them for you so that moving into February, you're feeling a little bit more secure. So that's always available. I will keep the information in the show notes as usual if you want to connect. And the moral of the story here, the summary is, if you have a weight loss goal for the new year, I encourage you reframe that to looking at what can I do to help support my health, because I believe that that is going to help you get much further. It'll be much more successful and you'll feel better as a result. And lastly, prevention is the best medicine. Prevention is the best medicine. I cannot stress this enough. And no matter where you are on your health journey, one of the most important things to remember is every single day we have the choice to invest in our health. And the investment that we make now is going to be the result we see in our 40s, in our 50s, in our 60s, 70s, 80s, no matter where we are in life. So what you're doing now in your teens will impact who you are later on. What you're doing in your 50s will determine who you are in your 80s. And this is something I don't think is talked about enough within healthcare. We're more of a let the problem happen than address it, as opposed to let's keep the problem from happening ever. And what I want to remind you of is so much of the health concerns we see from a physical and a mental standpoint are driven by the choices we make every day. I myself have a hard time comprehending why health isn't a focus for a lot of people. And I don't mean that insensitively, because everyone's entitled to prioritize what they want. I think obviously a large part of the reason why I feel this way is because I'm embedded in health and I do health and I work with people on their health. So it is coming, like I said from the beginning, from a biased place. But to me, if we can avoid so much of the ailments that we see that wreak havoc on the American population and that really diminish our quality of life, why would we not at least try? Why would we not at least invest effort? And like I said before, it doesn't have to be this extreme, all-consuming investment in, supplements and biohacking and all of these tools and techniques and strategies and so forth. It's just about returning to the basics and returning to what we know to be foundational to health. And I don't need to repeat those things because I think you all know, but it's just about being willing to say, all right, it is in my hands. It is my responsibility to take care of myself, to eat healthier, to invest in these areas that are going to fuel me, that are going to nourish me. And how can I, given where I am, start where I am and take an inch? And take an inch from there. And that's really what January 1st to me is about. It's not about these overarching bigger goals that are all consuming and overwhelming and really broad and vague. It's really just about how can I take smaller steps towards health so that they become part of my routine and part of who I am. And I never want this to come across as being oversimplified, because I think that tends to happen where it's like, well, just do it. Just go do it. And I could say that all day long. This episode could have been like 2 minutes long. I could have just said, yeah, just go do it. Just go do it and get started and, make it happen. But I know that there's a lot of resistance that can take place. It can be challenging. It can be hard to find rhythm. Life circumstances and responsibilities and work and all the things can get in the way. It can be tedious. It can be tiresome. It can be time in investing and time consuming. And I get it. I completely get it. And luckily, a lot of my work centers around that piece. I could tell you all day long, eat healthy, eat real whole foods, go move your body. And I think all of us would be doing that if it were that easy, and it's just not. And everyone has their own roadblocks. Everyone has challenges. I see this all the time with certain clients who either have no trouble, moving their bodies consistently, but they struggle with the nutrition piece, or their sleep is on point. They have killer sleep hygiene, but for whatever reason, they can't seem to, get their bodies moving. I'm just kind of throwing out random examples. I have a couple clients that come to mind who have trouble in certain areas, and it can be much deeper rooted than just, I just don't feel like it. There's oftentimes a lot of, issues underneath the surface that actually drive this resistance and this avoidance. And like I said before, it can result in some self-sabotage. So my work as a coach is to help not only give you those tangible surface level strategies to develop habits and routines, but it's also to, open up the floor to talk about, where is this resistance coming from? Why is it keeping you from moving forward? Or why do you find that you do really well for a week or two and then, fall off that pattern? What is it that's keeping you from consistently committing? So that's a big part of my work. And that's a big part of why I do what I do, because I know it's not as simple. And I hear it all the time. It's like, I know all the things to do. I know what to do. I just have a hard time, sticking with it. Or I have all or nothing thinking. Or I am a perfectionist. Or fill in the blank. I've heard it all. I've done this long enough now to hear lots of different reasons why it's really challenging for people. But what I want to really encourage you with is it's possible. It might be hard, and it might challenge you in ways that you never thought you'd be challenged or you didn't want to be challenged. But the growth and the value that comes on the other side of it is priceless. I'm telling you, health is everything. Health is so important. And I say this as unbiasedly as I can. I'm just saying it from a logical perspective. Our health is so, so important. And like I said before, I don't want to be insensitive, because I know that there's a lot of individuals out there who are dealing with maybe issues that you inherited at birth or you developed early in life, and now they're a part of your life and the way you're functioning and so forth. And so I know that it is very individual, and it's not as simple as just eat real foods and you'll feel better, because there can be so much more to it, and there usually is. But if you can just take a look and take a second to say, this is going to be something I make important for myself in this new year. I am going to schedule that appointment with that, with that doctor who specializes in this topic, or I am going to devote more time every week to meal prepping, because it's more preparation and it's more, security for my week. Or I am going to join this gym because they have this one class I've been interested in trying, and I'm going to, give it a go. If you can and take the time to really to look at that and start to invest there, that is one step in the very best direction. And your physical and your mental health rely on it. That's really ultimately what it is. And it doesn't mean you have to do these massive cleanses and do all these overhauls of your life. It's just about taking micro movements in the direction that you want to go. And that's, I think, going to be the most effective way to do it. I think New Year's resolutions oftentimes tend to be these grand, really ultra optimistic, unrealistic expectations of ourselves. And I applaud the energy and the ambition, but I also know that January 17th comes along and we tend to fall short, and that's where we fall and we crumble. And then we say, all right, maybe next year. So instead, first and foremost, orient your priorities, orient your health as being a non-negotiable for 2025. And then start to evaluate and take stock of, where are you at now? What does your health look like? What do your habits look like? What do you need to change in order to get to where you want to be? You're more than welcome to add in new habits, but I would say look at the habits you have already and decide what changes you can make there first and foremost so that you're able to make improvements right off the bat, as opposed to I really need to, start this new habit, or I need to add in something when I can just maybe adjust what's already there. That can be really helpful. And then give yourself the patience and the grace to let the process unfold organically and know that there's going to be ebbs and flows to it. I think one of the most harmful things that takes place is not because we want it to, but because we're human, all or nothing thinking creeps in where we think that we should be 100% all the time. And that's a cognitive distortion. That is a distortion in our thinking, and that will sabotage our efforts. That will keep us from making moves and making progress, because if we allow one negative thought or one off day to determine the remainder of our investment, then we are going to fail, and we are going to resign and surrender and abandon ship. So instead, utilizing that as a means and an opportunity to build awareness around the thoughts we're having, to call those into question, to reframe them, and then to move forward accordingly. And this is a huge part of my work. I am sorry that I keep returning to the work piece of what I do, but I'm telling you, this is such an important piece of the puzzle, is looking at the mindset piece and how that plays a role in this. Another illustration of our mind-body connection. So I'm hopeful that this episode inspired you. I am hopeful that it brought you some clarity. I am really excited to see what this new year has to offer. I myself have some health focuses going into the new year that I'm looking forward to investing in. But really the takeaway here is I encourage you to let yourself feel what you're feeling right now. Sometimes when we listen to things like this, it can be really triggering, and that can be really clarifying of insecurities or, areas that we do need to spend some time in and be like, wait a second, all right, what she's saying makes sense. I don't want to hear it, but it makes sense. You can kind of step out of that initial reaction of, nope, not for me, don't want to do it, I'm not interested, I'm triggered by this, and really acknowledge, yeah, I'm feeling a particular way about what she has to say because I know it's true and I'm going to do something about it. Triggering is a sign that we are reactive to something, that something stirred up inside of us, and it's not a reason to stay away from it. Actually, the most growthful thing that we can do is look at it and say, yeah, this sucks. I hate that I have to hear this. I hate that I have to listen to this. She's really putting salt in the wound, right? However, this is a sign that change can happen here, and this is an opportunity for me to grow. So how can I do that? And last but not least, I will 110% always reinforce the opportunity for you to work with me in addressing this issue. Like I said, I don't want to keep bringing up my work, but I have to, because this really is the area that I feel most drawn to in terms of that mindset piece, and then being able to adequately address it so that it jives better and it's more aligned with the behavioral changes that you're looking to make. That's really where you'll be most successful along your wellness journey, is looking at your mindset and marrying that with your behavioral changes. Too many of us are only looking at the behavioral changes and not looking at the mindset. And we have to do both. We have to do both. That is where you'll be most successful. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. This really is the most wonderful time of year, and I'm excited to be with family and loved ones during it while I, check my to-do list off. That is 100 miles long. But I encourage you to really listen to this episode, let it sink in, and take what you need from it. Take what you need from it. The information to work with me is in the show notes if you ever have interest in that. But take what you need from this episode and really start to think about, how can I take this into consideration moving into the new year, whatever your goals look like. Because I think ultimately, like I said, since the start, and I've always said health is individual, so it's going to look differently on everyone. And you're going to interpret this in a way that maybe I wouldn't have interpreted it, or somebody else might not interpret it, right? So the way you see this and the way you listen to this and how you absorb it and digest it matters. So use that, lean into it, and most importantly, make health part of your goals for 2025. Here to support you always. Thank you for joining me. I'm wishing you and your family and all your loved ones a healthful and happy new year and a holiday season. And until next time, be well.